Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Son. You just saw the opening video. It's a lot of fun. It's thrilling. The age that we live in today is an age of transformation, literally. Human beings experienced the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution totally transformed people's lives from the roots. But the information revolution that we face today will most likely bring about new transformations that were never imagined before. It will bring us to levels of novelty that we have never experienced before. So we just happen to be born in this age of transformation. We have the opportunity to challenge these new things, and I think we are very, very blessed and lucky. When I was a student, I had this distant dream of becoming an entrepreneur. And back then I thought, well, Konosuke Matsushita, he's really a happy, blessed man. Mr. Honda, Mr. Morita, they were born in such good times. They were lucky, I thought. If I were born back then, I would probably have rubbed shoulders with these giants. And I would probably have become a challenger in new fields such as electronics and automotives. So I thought they were lucky. I really envied them for the times and age that they were born in. And this was back in my student days. But now looking back, I think I'm the lucky one because I was born in a better era, even better era than those giants. So we are born in a blessed era. We can challenge the unknown. And I think we are truly blessed and truly lucky for this opportunity. SoftBank World is now in its 6th year. And back when we started, I used to ask questions like, are you using the iPhone? Are you using the iPad? And people who don't own both should stop, being human beings. I said I was very extreme. And, Japanese samurai could be called a samurai if they owned 2 swords, a long sword and a short sword. But now there's no need to even question people about their ownership because in the past 6 and 7 years, the world has changed forever. But we are going to witness even more tremendous changes and transformations going forward. So I'm so excited. I mean, I don't even want to go to sleep. Every morning I wake up and I think, oh, where am I? When I get out of bed, I'm lost. I don't know if I'm waking up in the United States or in India. I don't know where I am. Maybe Saudi Arabia. So recently, when I wake up, I don't know where I am because I'm jumping all around the world. But I really, really don't want to go to sleep because I don't want to waste the time. So we're living in a very thrilling and exciting times. Now, I talked about the Industrial Revolution. It started in the 18th century from the UK. And during the Industrial Revolution, at the backdrop was a social class called the gentry. The gentry, I'm sure you know about them. This is the word that became the root for the word gentleman. That is from the royalty. They were knights, former knights, who were given special privileges. And since already the age of wars was over, the king provided these former knights as privileged people with land as assets. And these gentlemen or gentry operated and managed the land and the privileges that they were provided to lead a very affluent life. But they not only generated money, they strongly held this feeling of noblesse oblige, that is, that they had to contribute to society. So they built infrastructure, they built ships and roads, etc. They made a lot of investment into these infrastructure through the financial markets. And their funds and their assets became the source of funds for the Industrial Revolution. So they financed the Industrial Revolution and the growth of new industries, new discoveries and technology and capital, that is risk-seeking capital. Risk-seeking capital and technology overlapped and were combined together, merged together to trigger what we call the Industrial Revolution. It started with the steam engine, then came the automatic loom and the steam locomotive, and that led to the automobile, Edison, etc. So new technologies combined with capital developed a huge revolution. The Industrial Revolution totally changed people's lives. But the Industrial Revolution was actually an extension of the human physical capability, the ability to run faster, the ability to pick up heavier things. So the Industrial Revolution was the extension of the 5 human capabilities or power, but the information revolution is an extension not only of the physical capability, but of our intelligence, of the brain cells, in a sense. So for human beings, rather than our arms and legs, which are our muscles, I think our brains are more important, probably, than our limbs. And I think that the information revolution, which is an extension of our intelligence, of human intelligence, will bring about transformations like we've never seen before. So SoftBank Group wants to combine this state-of-the-art technology with risk money, that is capital, in order to bring about and promote huge transformations. At the center of the information revolution used to be PCs. PCs started off as huge computers, but then due to microprocessors, they were made compact into PCs, and then they were linked together to create the internet. And not only PCs and smartphones, but microprocessors were embedded into all things, bringing about the age of IoT. And that could promote not only memory and calculation capabilities, but also will extend our intelligence. So not only knowledge and the ability to calculate, but it can extend our knowledge and intelligence. That is AI. Probably create beings which are more intelligent than human beings. As a result, and perhaps in Go and Shogi and chess, human beings are beaten by AI. So rather than human players playing each other, it's a battle between computers. And so human beings should probably give up trying to beat AI and computers, because AI is overwhelmingly stronger. So programs developed by human beings for Go and chess, etc., now beat human beings. And so this deep learning capability of AI is now expanding into art and healthcare. For example, robots, industrial robots, which used to do manual labor or simple labor, are now more intelligent, and they have picked up human languages, and they're able to translate instantaneously a human language into several other languages. Also, of course, in Japan, this is not realized because of various regulations, but in other countries around the world, Uber and Digda, these kinds of companies have evolved their technologies so that even congestion can be mitigated through AI. In Japan, when you call taxis, these taxi drivers will receive these wireless messages saying, okay, taxi number 12 or so, please go to such and such location. So the taxis will only come after you call them.
But Didi in China or the Uber in the US, even before you make a phone calls, they actually make a prediction and learn from AI and making heat maps. So even before you make a phone calls to the taxi driver, they are already around yourselves, depending on the day of the week, or maybe depending on the weather or season, or maybe some events around the neighborhood. I think all of those are trained and using a capability of AI even before making a phone call to the cab company or before taking some actions, they come to you based upon their prediction. So that AI is going to be trained with data. Data, I think in the industry so far is maybe all the resources like iron or oil or steel. Well, those are the resources which are required for the industrial revolution. The most important asset for the information revolution is data. Whoever gets the most data wins. We have to go through the analytics and train the AI, and that's something which we are all facing. Our group, SoftBank, is now acquired ARM. Simon, CEO of ARM, is going to come up on stage later to make his presentation. ARM has over 90% share in IoT arena. In smartphones, I'm sure that all of you here, almost 100% have smartphones in your pockets, I think. And all over the world, 99% of all the smartphones on the globe is configured with ARM's chip. So 99%. I think there have been a lot of important industries. In any industry, important industry, one company is any company owning 99% of all the devices on the globe? I don't think so. So 99% market share is now owned by ARM, and now they are not just looking at smartphones. Of course, they have the other devices like modem or other memory devices and home appliances, and everything of IoT will have ARM. Also, they have to be connected. Well, our smartphones, or maybe through the wired communication, we are usually connected, but there are certain locations which still do not have the connection. Well, we have to cover the entire globe. We are going into the times when we have 800 satellites over the Earth, and then they will have over like 2,000 satellites or 3,000 satellites trying to really bring the communication revolution at the optical fiber speed and LTE latency. And all over the globe, going through the optical fiber, maybe 1 billion lines will be connected. That technology, we are now trying to prepare that world, and that is something which is prepared by OneWeb, which is now a group company. So it's not just broadband, but from the satellite to cover the entire Earth globe. And that's something which we are considering. So from now onward, ARM's IoT and OneWeb's communication to cover the entire world, and 1 trillion IoT devices will be connected. With that, not just connecting to people, but connecting to the objects, things. So 1 trillion objects or things will be communicating. SoftBank are competing against the other competitors regarding the number of the human beings' connections. If we just think about the people's connection, maybe only 7 billion connections. So all over the countries and all the market share, if we gain all of them, it's still 7 billion, only 7 billion connections. Now we are not just going to look at 7 billion, but we want to connect 1 trillion connections. We really want to have the 1 trillion connections and 1 trillion devices on top of the people. Even when we are sleeping, everything is connected at real time. So that's something which we want to achieve. Well, those objects or things are connected to each other, and objects are connected to people, and that will generate data. If there's no chip, no data. No chip, no data. Whenever the data is generated, there should be a chip. And 90% possibilities, ARM's chip is installed or implemented. And that data is coming to connect to the ARM's big data cloud. It's on automatic, using AI to really analyze the data, and we can even train more. So that's the concept which we are all endeavoring. Singularity is for sure it's coming. I believe singularity is really coming. Maybe in 3 decades, I am sure that we will have singularities. Well, 200,000 years have passed since human beings was born. So over this 200,000 years history, maybe it's a 3 decade or 5 decades, maybe it's an era. It's a tolerance. Anyway, it's coming. Singularity is coming. Human beings are not winning over the computer on Go game, not just Go or Shogi games, but all the inference, all the reasoning, all the memories, all the predictions, all the wisdom. Anything which human beings can consider will be, of course, imagined or considered by computers, and that for sure is coming. There's no doubt about that. And that's something which I believe in. I don't know if this is good or bad. Yeah, I think still some room to discuss. But regardless if we hope for it or not, it's coming. If it's coming, then I think we want to drive in a good way or better way. That's what SoftBank believes. In the past, this artificial intelligence, this ultra or super intelligence, well, maybe the static smartphones or static PC, have those super intelligence. But when it is embedded into the robots, which is movable, they are going to walk on the street just like people, and they are running on the streets. Or maybe they can even fly over, or maybe fly over the ocean, or maybe they can actually go under the water. Maybe the huge robots, or maybe micro robots. They are all equipped with this super intelligence and going to be connected to the cloud at real time, and they will have the communication connection with 1 trillion objects or devices. If that comes, then they are even far better than ourselves. Well, Pepper like a puppet. It's like a Pinocchio. That's still there are many people who still believe in that. Our Pepper is still like a puppet or Pinocchio. Well, I think it's just the beginning. Maybe Pepper 20, Pepper 30, Pepper 100. I am sure that Pepper is evolving. And I think all the people who do not believe Pepper is intelligent is going to be beaten by Peppers or robots. Of course, Pepper is going to evolve, maybe bigger or smaller, or maybe it could be like Astro Boy. But anyway, it is coming. If it's coming, we still want to exceed the robots. We want to exceed the robots' capabilities, and rather we want to really revolutionize the world working together with robots. So recently, we now invited another great company underneath of SoftBank, which is Boston Dynamics. We'll hear a lot more details about Boston Dynamics later, but all the industries will be redefined. Well, I think the information revolution was like newspaper becomes the radio, or radio or television is going to be internet. But those conventional information industry is replaced by computer. That's been the norm. But from now onward, it's not just trying to use ad for the business, but maybe in the healthcare, or maybe transportation, or maybe the agriculture. So all the industries will be redefined, and that is coming.
That era is already here. That is zero accidents, social infrastructure with automobiles or transportation methods with zero accidents, or an era where people can leisurely and very casually exceed an average age of 100 years. And I think within our 300-year vision that we can exceed maybe an average longevity of 200, but at least the longevity of an average longevity of 100 years of age is already upon us. And the age when we can predict the future, where smart robots are different from smart robots. Just like the difference between smartphones and cellular phones, the difference between robots or assembly robots and smart robots are totally different. That is, the assembly robots which are working in our factories do not have intelligence. They are not equipped with AI. They are not smarter than us. They are robots to do simple manual work. And when people talked about, a world of robots, human beings like robots, we're making fun of these robots because we think that robots can only do manual labor and programmed work. And that's why we call people who move like robots, people who look like robots or move like robots. But with AI, these robots can now become smart robots. Smart robots will engage not only in simple manual work, because they will learn, they will gain intelligence and become more smooth, more intelligent, and more caring, because they'll be able to read human emotions. And they can act on their own initiative. And that era of smart robots will come, I'm sure. SoftBank wants to become the gentry of this new era. During the Industrial Revolution age, the gentry invested their risk capital, risk money. SoftBank wants to understand technology and invest risk money. Actually, SoftBank for the past 20 or 30 years have been investing a lot of risk money, and our accumulated record in the past 18 years is that the total funds we invested as risk money has exceeded a little more than 1 trillion yen, and now that's generated close to 20 trillion yen's worth of return. Every year, we are getting a compound annual growth rate of 44% in enhanced value. And so I don't think there is any other company in the world that could generate this kind of multiplier effect and this kind of return. So you may think, well, you were lucky because you hit upon Alibaba. That's true. We invested in Alibaba, and for me, that was a very, very lucky. And I'm really, really grateful to Jack Ma. But if you exclude Alibaba, how would the number of 44% change? Actually, it will only reduce down to 42%. Even if you exclude Alibaba, SoftBank's IRR, that is internal rate of return, is 42%. So what if we exclude the top 2 companies? It's still 43%. If you exclude top 3, 41%. Excluding top 4, top 5, it's still 41% of return. Internal rate of return is 41%, which means that it was not just one lucky hit. If you continue with a series of lucky hits, perhaps it's your capability. Maybe I'm smart after all. I'm beginning to think that way. So it was not just a lucky one-time gold mine that I hit just out of luck. So Alibaba was the investment that led to the largest return, but we acquired Vodafone Japan and renamed it SoftBank and Yahoo Japan, and Sprint also was actually in return, because you think that the SoftBank invested in Sprint and now it's all red ink and the SoftBank is suffering. And I have a feeling you're concerned about this, the return of the investment in Sprint. But we invested in Sprint, and SoftBank has already gained a compound annual IRR of 48% per year. This is compound. And that's our track record. And Super Cell, also an IRR of 97% compound rate. This means that we did not hit just one hit at one time at bat. We intentionally, premeditatedly, took the batter box several times. We planned for it, and of course, we missed several times, but our hits more than accounted for, offset for those missed hits. So we intentionally take risks. We intentionally want to become the gentry of the information revolution era. So we want to become the gentry that was required for the information revolution. We volunteered to be the gentry. Now we want to further expand on this, and we have set up a SoftBank Vision Fund of 10 trillion yen. We are offering this capital of 10 trillion yen in the fund. 10 trillion yen, I'm not sure you may know about this, but when you look at the global venture capital, all venture capitals of the world, their fund put together was 7 trillion yen. Their total funding or financing was 7 trillion yen. But SoftBank Vision Fund is just one company, just SoftBank alone exceeds all of the gentries of the world. 10 trillion yen is quite a sum. The AIIB is often talked about recently, but we, SoftBank, just one company, was able to achieve the level of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. So SoftBank as a gentry can be likened to the privileged class who were given privileges and land from the royalty, and this time from a true royalty, from a true crown prince or deputy crown prince. We were able to obtain cooperation in our fund and became the gentry of the new era. We volunteered to become the new gentry of this new era. And I think we are enjoying a tailwind, very strong tailwind. Just 10 years ago, information-related companies, there's only one information-related company in the top 10 of market capital in 2007. This is Microsoft. But in 2017, there are 7 information-related companies in the top 10. And of the 7 companies out of the top 10, Alibaba, which is our group, is number 7 in terms of market cap. Now, in 20 or 30 years, how many SoftBank color companies will make it into the top 10? I don't know, but I think several will probably make it into the list. And when you add them all together, then SoftBank, I think, would have proven itself to have become the new gentry of the new era to support and back them up. Of course, SoftBank was not able to do this alone, so we gained some strong partners: Saudi Arabia, the royalty, Abu Dhabi, Qualcomm, Foxconn, Apple, Sharp. They were like-minded entrepreneurs who decided to identify with me, and SoftBank, of course, has put in 30 trillion yen's worth of our own funds. So SoftBank is aiming not only at just one technology, one business model, or one brand to drive the world. No. We want to form a coalition of like-minded people, of comrades, entrepreneurs, like-minded entrepreneurs. We want to form a group, everyone to work together to create a revolution. A revolution can never be realized with the power of just one person. It's the powerless citizens, the man on the street, who get together and mobilize all of the forces together to challenge the establishment and change the world. SoftBank alone does not have the power, but we can cooperate with like-minded entrepreneurs and provide technology and capital and pool the capital together. And with these like-minded entrepreneurs and comrades, we will be able, I'm sure, to generate a revolution. Now then, let me introduce these comrades, these like-minded entrepreneurs who are trying to generate this revolution together. Mr. Marc Raibert from Boston Dynamics. Marc, please.
Masa, what an inspiring talk. That was great.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to SoftBank Group.
Oh, it's great to be part of it.
Yeah. I want you to tell them about your vision and show some technology.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do
Please.
it. Ohayou gozaimasu. Ordinary people can do extraordinary things. We can use our legs to walk, run, and climb, and go anywhere on the earth. We can go inside our homes and travel around our offices. We can go climb a mountain. It's really remarkable. Ordinary people can use their hands to manipulate things. I'm holding this, this device. I can switch it. I could take it apart. I could assemble it. And I do all that with my hands and my brain and my perception system. And ordinary people have perception that's just remarkable. If you walk through the subway station in Tokyo, pick any one at a busy time, there's hundreds or thousands of people that you can see and navigate, and your vision and your brain is just really performs a remarkable feat. So our goal at Boston Dynamics is to build robots that have capabilities like those. Our goal is really to build robots that are equal to or greater than people in terms of their mobility, manipulation or dexterity, perception, and intelligence. Now that's a long-range goal. We're not going to get there right away, but we've been working hard on the steps to take us there. So why don't I show you a little bit about what we're doing now in order to develop these capabilities. This is a robot where the main capability is mobility. It's designed to work out in the real world, and it has an ability to balance itself and move dynamically, which is one of the key ingredients of legged locomotion in people and animals. This robot was designed to carry heavy loads. It was designed for 200 kilogram, and we've tested it up to 500 kilogram. Now, I know many of you have heard about using drones to deliver packages to homes. Well, what about just using plain old legged robots? We've been experimenting with using legged robots to deliver packages, and here we're testing by having the packages go to our employees' houses. And in the Boston area, there's a lot of different variation from house to house, so it's quite a challenge, and we're doing very well. Now, if you want a robot that's going to fit in your house or your office, you need something smaller than the other ones. So for that purpose, we designed Spot. Spot is in English is the first dog-like robot you hear about. And here's some of the tasks. This isn't a real house. This is a house we built inside of our laboratory in order to do testing, but it gives us a chance to show some of the capabilities. And here, the ability to do mobility, sensing, perception, and intelligence lets us work in a real world that is very complicated. We've also been building some robots for manipulation that have 2 hands and 2 legs, and they can coordinate their hands with motion of the body, in addition to being able to do locomotion on terrain. So here, by using the hands and the body and the legs and the perception system. Perception is very important, and some intelligence. The robot can do some tasks that might be useful tasks, where they transport boxes in a logistics situation, line them up. We've been interested in seeing if we can make these robots work as fast as humans. And so here we're showing the robot working with a human, and it pretty much keeps up. It's using its perception. You see the boxes? Here there's two robots working together. That first one's a little bit sloppy, but you get the idea. Just because we're trying to build robots that have the capabilities of humans doesn't mean they need to look like humans. Here's one that has legs combined with wheels, so they have more efficiency. It still has two arms, and so it can manipulate. And this one's pretty strong. It lifts about 50 kilos, 100 pounds, and it can do this all day long without breaking a sweat. The robot also has rough terrain capability. And it loves to show off. Now, I've brought one of our robots with us today. This is Spot Mini. And Seth here is operating for you. Right now, Seth is just driving the robot around. I'm in the way here. Where he's steering it, telling it what speed and direction to go. But the onboard computers are coordinating the motions of the legs so that it does walking, trotting, pacing, and other gaits. One of the cool things about legged robots is they're omnidirectional. So it can travel sideways in addition to forward, and it can turn in place. And of course, the robot's a little bit of a show-off. It does some dynamic tasks, and even more dynamic tasks. Someone was asking about two legs. So let me tell you a little bit about Spot Mini. It's got a set of stereo cameras here, and if you look up on the screen, you can see what the robot sees. And if we switch into another mode, it'll show you what the robot's thinking. So here's a model of the world. You can see the edge of the stage, which it's using its stereo to generate. And it also shows itself in the world, so it knows if it were to walk that way, it would fall off the stage, and it's not going to do that. It's also got another sensor back here, a LiDAR, a laser ranger. And here's the view from the laser ranger, and you can see the whole stage. We put those posts up there so it can navigate. Now we're going to show you a simulated security patrol. So Seth's going to switch it into a different mode where the robot is working completely on its own. I have to get out of the way. So Seth isn't driving anymore. This is autonomous navigation. And we've programmed it to go over in this corner and check for something that shouldn't be there. So it doesn't actually have a sensor in the hand, but if it did, it would be looking and checking to make sure that no one had put anything there. Then it's going to go around. I think, Masa, you may have to back up a little bit, because otherwise you're in the way. We don't have it detecting people yet, but it will detect this step and go over it, we hope. So it used its stereo vision system to detect the step. Now Alex is going to convert the step into an obstacle that it can't climb over. Again, I have to get out of the way. So when it does this, it's using its LiDAR to localize itself on the stage. Again, we've given it a path to go on, so it knows how to get everywhere. There's no GPS in here, so it has to do it all with these other kinds of sensors. And it's just going to do 2 laps. You can imagine it out at a shopping center or a factory or a warehouse doing security. So the stereo cameras saw that obstacle, and it planned a path around it. So another feature of Spot Mini is it has an arm. And we've made this a very smart arm, so that when you program the arm, you're telling the hand what to do. You don't really want to think in terms of what the joints are. You want to tell the hand what to do. So there, Seth is just telling the hand to reorient or to travel left and right or open up and down. We've also programmed coordination so that the body can move, but the hand stays stable. And our bodies are like that. I can program my hand and move my body around. And that means when I'm doing a manipulation task, I can think about the task, not about my body. I'm feeling a little thirsty. Could you get me that soda over there? So for this task, there is a camera in the hand. And when the robot gets close, it scans, finds the can, grasps it automatically, and then Seth will bring it over here so I can have a drink. Thank you, Spot. And thank all of you for listening.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Marc, we're going to change the world together.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're going to put lots of artificial intelligence into the robot.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So all around the world, the telecommunication have to be connected. That's what I have been saying. When it comes to satellite, you may feel that it's always a delay in telecommunication. Therefore, satellite cannot be used for the internet. Maybe it can be used for the broadcasting, but not for the internet. That's probably the conventional way of thinking. However, when the satellite can be low orbit, much closer to the Earth, and the massive amount of satellite can bring about the telecommunication revolution. So I'd like to invite Greg to talk about this vision.
Thank you.
So this is fantastic, and that was a tremendous demonstration of robotics. And I'm going to take us to a little bit more, somewhat sobering at some points, thought process about, does anybody here have children who don't have access to the internet? All of us. It's important for us to have access. It's important for all of our machines that we're developing and building, and for all the technologies we're making to have access to the internet. And what we're doing, and really with the help of Masa and the vision, which is really, really incredible, is enabling affordable access for everyone. What if we could make sure that everyone in the world had access to the internet? That access to data was available everywhere, to everything. And so this is the vision, actually a mission of OneWeb, to bridge the digital divide globally by 2027. So this mission started a while back. I went to Africa, and I wanted to connect schools. There's a lot of schools without connectivity, about 2 million of them today. So I started running fiber, thinking fiber was the best thing out there. And I ran a lot of fiber. And I realized, running a lot of fiber, that it wasn't the answer. It was expensive. It was hard to run. It broke often, and you had to repair it. And you couldn't bring it to everybody. So there's lots of places around the world where fiber will end. So what do we do there? How do we get that high-speed internet access to everyone? Well, this problem plagues the world. 54% has no access. 4 billion people. We talked about 7 billion people being connected and 7 billion humans. Well, over half of them are without access. So we looked up. Rather than going down into the dirt, go up into the sky. Build a satellite system to bring internet access to the world. Now, many of you, or all of you, are in communications. And you know the most important thing of communications, the starting point is almost always spectrum. And for us, the spectrum is managed by the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union. Now, fortunately, back in 1997, they had set aside a very large block of spectrum, a lot of forethought. And they put a lot of rules around it, but they set aside a very large block of spectrum for this purpose, for non-geostationary satellites to provide a bridge, a digital bridge, to bring internet access to the globe. And we acquired that spectrum. We designed and developed a technology that would follow all of the rules and gave OneWeb the priority rights to 3.5 gigahertz of globally harmonized spectrum. Now, in mobile networks, you think of 10 megahertz or 20 megahertz, or maybe 100 megahertz wide bandwidth. But this massive amount of bandwidth allows us to bring tremendous amounts of capacity to everyone. And I'll show you how that works. So we start with a satellite, or we start with the fiber on the ground, which is already out there. And in this case, the fiber is coming to a gateway in Egypt. It transmits this information up to the satellite. And when it hits the satellite, it comes down to the ground. And underneath a bunch of beams, or lines of beams, each beam being a different frequency, the customer, the terminal on the ground, will change frequencies, receiving and transmitting its data in that frequency. But our satellites move, and the Earth moves, and they all have to coordinate together. So we have actually 49 satellites in a plane at 1,200 kilometers. And initially, we'll have 18 planes. The 18 planes and the nearly 900 satellites will give us complete 100% global coverage. And this is just the beginning. So we've talked about the mission and the spectrum. And then you have to have satellites. And the satellites need to be cost effective. Now, most of the time, satellites have been $50 million each for something like this. But we redesigned the satellites and developed a serial production mechanism for satellites that's never been done before to bring these satellites down under $1 million. We were shooting for $500,000 per satellite. We're just a slight bit higher. So for the first time ever, we're actually doing serial production of satellites. And this isn't a hope of something we might do in the future. This isn't just a PowerPoint slide talking about a vision. This is a factory in Toulouse, France, where we're producing these satellites. And factories in Florida, where we're producing space structures, and in New Mexico, building solar panels, and another factory in Florida in Cape Canaveral, the world's largest purpose-built satellite factory, where we'll build 3 satellites per day. So to do this, we had to build a very highly automated factory to get that price down and to enable tremendous amounts of capacity for everyone in the world. So we also had to develop new technologies with our partners. And we have a lot of partners in this. As Mas had said, you can't do this alone. So while SoftBank is a large investor, we have many other investors and governments supporting us, cheering us on for this common mission of enabling access for the globe, which will benefit all of you economically, and it will make all of the other half of the world economically relevant so that you can transact with them and bring your products to them, and they can develop their own technologies and maybe sell them to you. In this case, for space structures, we worked to design a panel. On that panel, which is part of the satellite, you see these little inserts. Those inserts, which are threaded screws, are very hard to put in, and they take 15 minutes per insert. There's 550 inserts per satellite, so it's 1 month's worth of work to build a satellite, just the structures. But with a partner, we developed the world's first and only insert machine where we can insert these pieces, test them, and validate them within 1 minute, changing the time for building a system from 1 month to 3 hours. So we've developed a lot of technologies. We've got the satellites in production. What does it bring you? What does it bring people? Well, our capabilities, we're going to have well over 1 gigabit per second. Our first phase will be 595 megabits per second, with latencies below 50 milliseconds. So it's fully LTE compliant. This can sit in the middle of your networks, and you won't have to reprogram anything, any core networks or any software. It'll just work like all of your software does today. Terminals need to be easy to install. And most importantly, you need global availability. Because all fiber plants, all cable plants, they end somewhere. You've heard the term outside plant or outside the footprint. We want to make sure everybody, no matter where they are, can have access, equal access to the high-speed internet that we enjoy and our children enjoy. So who will buy this and how will they use it? Direct to consumer. A small terminal easily installed on the side of a house or on a school or a health center. We're targeting 1 billion subscribers by 2025. Cellular backhaul. There's 7.5 million cell towers today that are still 2G. They don't have the backhaul. No one thinks about the backhaul when they talk about 3G and LTE or 5G. But we're going to help to upgrade those cell towers from 2G into 5G world. And when we're going to deploy millions of 5G small cells, they'll all need backhaul. And OneWeb will be the unsung hero behind that 5G signal that you get. It will allow these backhaul, these small cells to be deployed in places that you would never have thought, and self-deployed. Another big market, an interesting market, of course, is the connected car. As we move to autonomous vehicles, as you have your car take you to work, and your children are watching a movie in the back, and you may want to do video conferencing, or you may want to download and upload big files or work on a CAD program, you'll be able to have as much bandwidth in your car anywhere in the world that you go as you do in your office or in your home. So this is the system we're building to enable this global high-speed mobile internet. Of course, we'll have aircraft and trains and maritime uses. But this system, one of the things that we can't forget, and the mission that brings us all together, is the ability to really connect all of the schools of the world, to ensure everyone has equal access. And through great investors and through Masa's long-term vision and thought, which I thank you and our team thanks you, and the world really is going to benefit from, is your help in enabling OneWeb to make this happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. We're gonna change the world, and we're gonna connect everybody into this internet space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 世界中の
Everything in the world will be connected. Everyone will be connected in the world, but people must survive. The things that we couldn't solve, one of the medical issues that we still face is the cancers. Curing the cancers are done by the medical doctors, but our information revolution can also contribute to this. The artificial intelligence can analyze the DNAs, and liquid biopsy can contribute to detect the cancer, whether it is an early stage, mid stage, or late stage. And with liquid biopsy, you can detect cancers at an earlier stage. And the earlier you detect the cancer, the more you can survive. So early stage detection of a cancer can be enabled by information revolution, AI. And Guardant was a company which is exactly working on it. In the United States, they already started the liquid biopsy for cancer, and also they already have 90% of the market share. So the power of Guardant Health with the use of the AI and with use of liquid biopsy, the people's cancer can be detected in an earlier stage, which means that they can start their therapy at much earlier stage, and they can survive. So they have 90% of the market share in the cancer centers and institutes in the United States. I hope that you can hear directly from the Helmy. So, Helmy, please come up to the stage.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I'm going to bring us down to earth. It was exciting to see the robots and be up in space. We're going to deal a little bit with cancer here. So, Guardant Health, our mission is to conquer cancer with data. We're the pioneer and leader in the comprehensive liquid biopsy market. Guardant 360 is the world's first comprehensive liquid biopsy. We launched it about 3 years ago, It's currently being run in over 38 countries. 40,000 patients have been tested. It's being used by over 90% of US cancer centers and over 50 leading pharmaceutical companies. Let's delve a little deeper now, though. As you know, cancer is a serious problem. It's the second leading cause of death. About 1 in 6 people will die of cancer globally. But at its core, cancer is a disease of the genome. If we can get access to the genetic code of an individual tumor, we can do one of two things. We can match patients with better therapies, and we can detect cancer earlier. The challenge has been, though, is that the only way to access that genetic code has been through a tissue biopsy. In lung cancer, for instance, the average lung cancer biopsy takes over 4 weeks, costs over $15,000, and has a 19% complication rate, not to mention a 1 to 2% death rate. And so it's very hard to get access to important genetic information. We launched Guardant 360 3 years ago, as I mentioned, and that essentially allowed physicians to access that critical genetic code with a simple blood draw, with much faster turnaround time, and 1/3 the cost of a tissue biopsy-based approach. And this has had profound implications for patients. Take Marc, for instance. He was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer a couple of years ago. He was on the brink of death. He essentially didn't have many other options. His physician ordered a Guardant 360 test, and essentially we were able to match him with critical life-saving therapies. We extended his life. He was able to see his oldest daughter's wedding and his youngest daughter's graduation as a result. As profound and dramatic those results are, it's not enough. In order to bend mortality curves and really make a big dent in cancer, we have to get to early detection. Fortunately, because of our approach with machine learning and the petabytes of data that we are collecting every single month, every test we run allows our technology and our platform to get better. Since our launch, Guardant 360 has gotten 10 times better by sequencing over 40,000 patients. But how do we get to early detection? We project that essentially we have to sequence 10 times as many patients in order to get to the performance levels required for early detection. A very daunting task, needless to say. But enabled by our partnership with SoftBank, we are announcing an unprecedented goal of sequencing 1 million cancer patients within 5 years. We call this the Guardant 1 Million Initiative. If you to put this in perspective, existing databases are about 10,000 cancer patients to maybe about 100,000 cancer patients for proprietary databases of cancer patients. So this will be more than 10 to 100 times bigger than existing databases. With this initiative, we will be able to advance a deeper understanding of cancer, as well as develop a simple blood test for the early detection of that disease. Thank you.
Great. Great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, sir. Thank you.
We're going to help many, many people.
No doubt about it.
Yeah,
thank you,
thank you.
Masa.
Thank you. Thank you. まあ人々の
So this is the second highest reason for the people's mortality, the cancer. And if we can detect the cancer at the early stage and then we can save the people, it is almost equivalent to the Nobel laureate in the medical field. Now, having said that, now humans are humans. Now we have to talk about the things of the world. Everything have to be connected. The data of everything have to be sensed and send these data to AI. And you have to collect the data. IoT is a buzzword, but where does the IoT will be introduced first? I think the first entrance is going to be the industrial IoT. increasing the productivity is one way. If you can predict something is getting closer to the breakdown, then you can replace the parts, you can repair the machine before it breaks down so that there will be no stoppage in the factory operation. So the worldwide electricity companies, electricity utilities, 90% of the U.S. Utility companies are already using this OSIsoft. And the Fortune top 10 of a pharmaceutical company, 90%, oil and gas, 95%, and metal and exploration, 100%. So this technology has been widely proliferated in the industries. The data of the industries now collected on this platform called OSIsoft. Now they are member of my SoftBank group. So Martin, please come up.
Thank you for having us here at OSIsoft. We're really excited. If you haven't heard of us, we're a 37-year-old startup in the Bay Area. We have 20,000 systems worldwide collecting data. Our first customer is in Hawaii, so if you'd like to do a customer visit, come with me. We can go see it together. But the key there is 37 years ago, a PI system would put in a refinery in Hawaii, and that data is being collected. It is powerful, and it's being used, and we never left the customer behind. And the key is we started using the same technology in other industries to provide huge amounts of value. And our journey has been really quite exciting. The excitement starts with the passion of the customer. So the last 37 years, we've built many, many references where customers in pharmaceuticals, food and beverage, oil and gas, water, have huge savings and take the data and do great things with it. But with the advent of innovation and the challenges we're seeing in the world, 1 trillion sensors, things exploding, people needing this data, and then building machine learning, we sit right foundationally between taking the sensor, bringing it up, empowering people, and then giving it to machine learning advanced analytics. It's a very exciting time for us. And where we see the relationship with SoftBank is helping take on other industries. How do you get data out of other things just outside the industrial space? It's very exciting. So let me show you a little bit about what the PI system does.
There's people out there who want data, maybe you. And you have sources of data, pieces of equipment, maybe pumps, that have all sorts of information that you want to see. And to attach you to the data didn't take much work. Attach yourself to the data, not a problem. And we brought in some new equipment. We need something to get the data from here to here, so we brought in, not a problem at all. Hired other people, well, they need to use the data too. We'll attach them in with a different solution. We acquired a site. It probably brings with it a whole new set of people. That gets taken care of? Yeah, all right. They're off in headquarters, so connect all this together. And this has become our data infrastructure. It's what connects the data we have to where we want it to go. What the PI system does, so you have sources of data, new plants, equipment you've had for years. You've had equipment you bought last month, places where it needs to go, colleagues. The PI system connects to any source of data, to anywhere it needs to go, all from that one place. The PI system specializes in connecting to anything out there that our customers use. So as soon as you bring in a new system, it can get out to where it needs to go immediately. That's PI as an infrastructure.
Excellent. Now that you know about the PI system, I'd like to introduce our CEO and founder, Dr. Pat Kennedy.
I'm Pat Kennedy, founder of OSIsoft. SoftBank is our largest outside investor, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this audience. We've been doing streaming data management for nearly 40 years, and we keep expanding to more and more industries and collecting more and more information, all the time working to increase scale, use of modern technology, and support all existing customers. We help users see failures before they happen and defects before they are shipped. What initially impressed me about SoftBank was the fact that they'd actually published a 300-year plan. OSIsoft has similar aspirations in that we manage for longevity. Profits and growth are not necessarily a goal. They're really the result, and I believe the 300 years looks achievable. I'm delighted to be part of such a philosophy, but it also must be good for SoftBank. And I'm sure the question arises as to what advantage OSIsoft can bring. I'd like to address that. The industrial Internet of Things is the next large user of telecom services. If you go back a few years, we saw within the telecom business that voice could be 90% of the profits, but data was 90% of the growth. The obvious happened, data took over, and voice now has actually been removed from some of the telecom circuits. I think you'll see the same thing happening with IIoT or IoT or M2M, whatever you want to call it. The communication between machines will soon eclipse the data transfer that we have today, just as the data transfer eclipsed the voice of yesterday. This is what we do, and I'm delighted to be part of this.
So on behalf of OSIsoft, I'd like to thank you for introducing us, and thank you for the partnership.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, across the world, we are all connected to the space. Things are connected. We talked about the early detection of cancer to save lives. But still, today, we drive cars. Driving cars put our lives to risk. So it's a risky thing to drive a car. In order to protect our lives from traffic accidents, let us use AI. That is what Nauto is doing. We can use cameras facing the driver, and another camera that is placed outside the vehicle to check what is in front of the car. You capture both images. The conventional drive recorder only records what might have happened before and after the accident. It's simple. It is a simple recording machine, but with AI, it looks at driver, whether the driver is drowsy or facing the front. If there is any danger detected, it can actually notify the driver that stay away. If the driver is looking away, remind the driver the bus is approaching in front. And data that is collected from those cameras can be utilized to prevent any possible future incidents, to enhance safety of self-driving vehicles. To this end, we have to collect data as quickly as possible to prevent every kind of accident. That is why Nauto will have the bright future ahead. I was one slide ahead. Now Nauto's technology is actually incubated by Andy Lewin. That he has supported Nauto, and we are part of the investors. Now, a new company, a family member of SoftBank Group. Stefan, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. 皆さん、おはようございます。
Good morning, everyone.
I'm delighted to talk about the transformation of transportation and the role that Nauto is playing in it going forward. But let's start with today. Raise your hand. How many of you own a car today? Yes, most of you, right? And as Masa-san has already mentioned, it's unsafe, it's expensive, it's inefficient, and you're mostly stuck in traffic and looking for parking. What a great experience. Today, 99% of all of our investments in transportation, in the cars, in the buildings, the parking spaces, and in the roads, is going to waste. I want to show you how we can make a difference to that over the next few years and how quickly we can actually access those benefits even today through the kind of AI and data and deep learning technology that Nauto is delivering. Today, only 1% of the fuel goes to actually moving you and your cargo. Eventually, vehicles will be all electric and very, very efficient. But even today, retrofitting an existing commercial vehicle, we can save up to 20% of the fuel just through better driving behavior, accelerating less, and through better routing and optimization. Similarly, the vehicles today, you bought your cars to park them. You're actually driving only 2.5% of the time that you own your car. So mostly you bought it to have a nice piece of equipment sitting in your garage or paying for a garage, more likely here in Tokyo. Eventually, cars will be heavily utilized as they're shared and they're autonomous. They can run 24/7. But that is still several years off. With Nauto, however, we can eliminate the 1/3 of congestion and traffic that is people looking for parking, people stuck in the wrong traffic jam. If you have real-time data, where are all the open spaces, where's the traffic, where should you go, what's the best place and route to go, that will already save you significant amounts of fuel and will allow you to utilize your asset more and increase the ability to share the vehicles. And lastly, coming back to safety, 1.2 million people die globally. Yes, cancer is the #2 globally, but if you're in middle age between 25 and 50 years old, actually cars are the #1 cause of death, if you're not old. The reason for that is we haven't added all of the safety improvements that we've actually made for flying. Flying has become much, much safer since the 1940s and 50s. Driving has not. Autonomy will fix this, but autonomy is still quite a few years off, and it would be immoral, unethical not to use those technologies today to actually save the first 25%, which we can do this year. And over the next 2 years, we expect a series of software upgrades actually to get us to the first half. So in summary, Nauto's a bridge from where we are today, which is pretty messy and ugly transportation, to the autonomous shared future, but you get those benefits today. We are live in the US, in Europe, and here in Japan. For a few $100s, you can put a device in any commercial vehicle that gives you AI and data access and sensors today and lets you inform the driver, warn the driver, actually prevent the accidents, not just record them like a drive recorder, but actually intervene, coach the driver, and intervene real time. I want to show you a little bit of a video now of how this works. What you see here on the left-hand side is you see the outward view. We're detecting other vehicles, dangerous situations, pedestrians, and we're detecting whether you're tailgating. Rear-ending the car in front of you is the #1 accident in the world. Telling you when you're too close or when you're in danger of hitting the car is one of the #1 features for Nauto reducing accidents. But 2/3 of all accidents are the driver's fault. So we also look at the inside. And we observe in real time using computer vision and AI to see what the driver's doing. Is the driver using this? Because while this has changed our world for the better, it's changed our driving for the worse. Accidents are going up. 2/3 of all accidents are because of distraction. So unique in the world, we're able to detect distraction in real time. Is the driver looking at the road? Is the driver looking at their phone? We see events where at highway speeds at 100 kilometers an hour, the driver's distracted for 8 or 9 seconds. If you think about how much risk that driver is taking. So we can avoid the collisions, but we also see hidden data. Today, most crashes are not reported. They're dealt with privately between the commercial fleets or the private parties. More interestingly, 2/3 of the near misses that are almost a crash, the driver's not even aware. Typically, you don't run a red light deliberately. You run a red light because you didn't see it. And unless you get hit, you won't even know another person corrected for your mistake. We see lots of other really interesting data from actual driving. First thing, safe driving is not necessarily legal driving. This maneuver is very safe. You're giving the biker a lot more room, but it's actually illegal. So for an autonomous car to drive well, it needs to know when the law has to be followed and when you have to evolve to the current situation. We also see dangerous events are very rare, 100 million miles apart. Thank goodness, because otherwise more of us would die than today. But we need to capture these rare events and learn from them. This is a real accident in one of our commercial fleets. You can see it's not this driver's fault. We exonerate the driver, which saves the fleet money, but we have to capture a lot of learnings. And lastly, we want to drive in cities like Tokyo. Urban driving is extremely messy. This is not Tokyo, but you can see people, animals, cars going every which way. Today's autonomous car can handle a highway just fine, but put them in this environment and their default answer is to wait. Which if I put one here, that's fine, but if I start deploying hundreds and thousands of vehicles into Tokyo with this decision-making capability, the whole city would seize up with traffic. So there's a need for enormous amounts of data. To get to 99.99% reliability, which is still a reasonable goal, most of us would probably want to add another 9 or 2 to that system to really be safe, requires hundreds of billions of miles of data. People today have millions of miles of data. No one's even close to billions of miles of real driving data with the right kind of processing and insight into what's going on. So Nauto creates that capability. We help both the driver get better, help educate them, coach them, and warn them. We help the fleet save money and get operationally more efficient. And we're working with 5 automotive partners, including Toyota here in Japan, on building tomorrow's autonomous vehicle informed by the best human driving. I'd like to thank my team, which has worked hard for 2.5 years doing this, and I'd like to thank all of our investors, including Masa-san, thank you for our great partnership.
Thank you.
In bringing all of you safer driving.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
人々が
The reason for the mortality of the people, and he said that the biggest reason is the car accidents. So to lead a life without having a traffic accident, then we have to collect massive amount of data as soon as possible and should be analyzed by the AI. And Nauto has been contributing to that point. Now, without traffic accident, then in the world without the traffic accident, then the people want to revisit the day-to-day lives and want to lead a healthy life. Every day we are eating lots of chemicals, and chemicals are negatively impacting the people's health. And then that's why the people started to eating organic foods without agricultural chemicals. And one step further, the person is making use of AI and also the machine learning to provide better food, vegetables. The leaf vegetables are the starting point of this company that called Plenty. So let me invite Matt.
Thanks, Masa. Thank you. So the team at Plenty has been working to bring people, as Masa was saying, better food, food that tastes better, is craveable, and is healthier for both people and the planet. And the way that we do that is through field-scale agriculture. So this is kind of fun. This is the FC Barcelona stadium, football stadium. And what field-scale agriculture means is that we can grow the entire stadium on the footprint of the net. So we use less than 1% of the land and about 1% the water that conventional ag does on the same exact crops. And so what that ends up doing is getting us a very efficient agricultural model where we can locate anywhere in the world close to where the customer is to get them better food. And we do that by both growing vertically, so our plants are growing sideways or horizontally off a vertical plane, and we do that by giving them the perfect environment. So plants, whereas people and animals can seek out the perfect environment and even build themselves the perfect environment, plants are kind of stuck. So we give them the perfect environment, and in return, they grow faster, they grow healthier, and we can grow varietals that just taste better and are healthier for us. And so one of the things that we're solving for is the length of the supply chain itself. So we're solving for time, distance, and nutrients. People have been working for 10,000 years to solve for protein and calories. And we have largely solved for that, if not for the time and distance that it takes to get the food to people. So today on this earth, we are throwing away about half of everything that we grow. By growing food near where people eat the food, we can avoid a lot of that. So that's one of the things we're solving for. And as you can see, this is a simplified chart that shows how complicated our supply chain is today. One of the reasons that the food is the way that it is today is because it has to travel thousands of miles in a truck and days and weeks. So we're working to eliminate that time and distance so that the food can be food that we crave and food that is healthier for us. So just as Masa and SoftBank have had the courage to invest in things like semiconductors and smartphones and mobile networks over time, similar things are happening now in agriculture. So what is happening is that Plenty has developed technology to be able to take advantage of commoditizations in other technologies. So if you look at LED lights, for example, if you look at this chart, what it is showing is the cost over time and how that cost has been plummeting. So much so that if you would go back just 7 years, we would have paid 64 and it would have made it such that there's no business. It would have been cartoonish. But today, we're paying 1.4% what we would have paid 7 years ago, and now it's inevitably going to be one of the largest industries on the planet. The same thing is happening in IoT sensors. As SoftBank has been investing in ARM, this now is an industry where each farm now will create nearly 100 petabytes of data per year towards the end of creating the perfect environment for plants and better food for people. And then the same thing is happening in machine learning, which is one of the devices that we use and technologies we use to give the plants the perfect environment. And we've seen this before. The companies you've heard of, like Google and Tesla and Facebook and CRISPR, they have developed their own technologies which then enable them to take advantage of commoditizations in other areas. If you look at Google, for example, that's a logarithmic scale where the cost is just plummeting over time. And had they started a couple years earlier, there would have been no business. Tesla, the same thing with energy storage. And this is how we do it. We take a building the size of an Aeon or a Walmart or a Home Depot, and we turn that into hundreds or even thousands of acres of conventional field production. So this is the way you'll be getting much of your food in the future, and we are working to make it true as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Masa. Thank you.
Vegetables are grown in the 1/100th of the space and then 1/100th of water. If you can do that, then you can bring the farms in your city, in the warehouse in the city, so you don't have to transport the vegetables long distance. And vegetables are grown in a perfect environment, no chemicals, safe, and also cheap. And at the same time, easily accessible food. The whole foods were purchased by the Amazons, and I think that they are planning to provide the vegetables and then perishables with their network too. So it is safe and also space and saving. Agricultures can be done by IoT and also deep learning. People can live longer and at a lower cost. So we've been listening to many people, robotics, AI, autonomous driving, and to enable perfect autonomous driving, the regulation, traffic laws have to be changed, and also we have to wait a few more developmental steps of the technologies. But the Brain Corporation is now implementing this technology in our real world. So the autonomous driving technologies combined with deep learning and also AI, so that you can conduct safe and cheap cleanings without depending on the human resources, so that the Brain Corporation is providing the brain for this cleaning machine.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's talk about the future that we all share. We all know that in the future, there'll be robots everywhere, in your home, doing landscaping outside, in the farm, doing agriculture, cleaning, taking care of us, taking care of our parents, taking care of us. Now, it might be a surprise to many of you that all those future robots already exist today. They're made by thousands of OEMs. They're sold to practically every market out there. They probably were used today during the night to clean this room. Now, the reason we don't treat those devices as robots, because they all require people to operate. And cost of labor is 90% of cost of operation of those machines. There's absolutely no reason for people to be there. In fact, it's not scalable if you have to assign a person to every robot. But the reason the people are there is because those robots don't have brains. What if they have a brain? This is exactly what Brain Corporation is doing. We're building brains for robots. AI in a box and in the cloud. We can take any vehicle that has wheels and soon legs. We can convert it into an autonomous robot. Now, instead of waiting for the self-driving cars and regulations to happen, this future of self-driving is already here. In fact, it was here last year. This is a cleaning machine. It has a brain. It's fully autonomous. It can navigate in this environment. It obstacles, people, children, get new boxes, and during restocking, it can navigate in very narrow spaces. It can squeeze between different obstacles without ever getting in contact with them, without ever touching anything, without ever damaging anything. This machine with the brain is safer than a machine driven by a person. It's doing the job better, more consistent, and it's scalable. And it's cheaper for the customer to operate this machine. This is a self-driving technology today in this kind of environment, in indoor environment. Now, we don't build the machine, we only build the brain. The way we operate is we're a software company, we're an AI company. We partner with OEM partners, with manufacturers, which manufacture manual machines, and we provide them our technology. We teach them how to embed AI and the brain inside their manual vehicles, such that their vehicles become robot-ready, autonomous. Our partners can sell these vehicles to their customers. And the customers need to activate autonomy, activate AI. And this is how we charge them. This is a SaaS business model. We charge them for AI as a service. Now, right now we have vehicles, commercial cleaning vehicles, but you can attach the brain to anything else that has wheels. It could be a delivery robot, it could be a security patrol robot, it could be autonomous wheelchair, it could be anything, just it's only bounded by your imagination and finding the right partner who already making manual machine that does the job. So today we're talking about commercial robots. Tomorrow, taking advantage of our relationship with SoftBank and with Qualcomm, we're going to cost down this technology to make it so inexpensive that we can put it into consumer robots that will take care of us. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, thank you.
See, without waiting for a new development, the available technologies that are already used in Walmart and airports, we can actually have this cleaning robots with brain. Currently, it is run and operated by humans. That costs like 300, 500, maybe 1,000 yen or 1 million yen even. That simple operation can be taken place by
the brain develops. Instead of humans operating the machine, you simply have to pay $500 every month. The machine can now use cloud to learn. So it's machine learning technology. For an airport that requires to clean the place can reduce a lot of labor costs. They have to compete with e-commerce companies as well, so they are required to reduce operation costs for their survival. So simple operations can be done by AI without waiting for the deregulation of laws and regulations. Could be lawnmowers or road cleaning systems. There will be as many applications as you can imagine. So the humans will be freed of simple manual operations. Instead, we can actually use that free time for a lot of things that are more entertaining and more valuable. So there is a great possibility. So next, I want to talk about the company CloudMinds. Various AIs are now concentrated on cloud. From the cloud, many things can be operated safely. This is a new standard, new operating systems being developed by this company, CloudMinds. It's a grand challenge. Bill, the CEO, has been my old friend with East.com. He was a CTO of China Mobile. He's returned back to Silicon Valley to start up his own company. This is a wonderful company. Bill, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Son founded my first startup when I came out from Bell Lab. For the last 20 years, we have been partners in innovations in many different areas, in communications, in smartphones, in international new standards, the 4G standard. But now, we're taking on a new trip. The trip is for the singularity. We share the dream in the next 3 decades, 2050 or 49, right? And we'll get there. And how do we get there? Let's look at biology. The human brain is one giant complex machine. It uses sodium and iron as its conductivity. Nature chose it because it consumes 1 million times less power than electronics. So for 1,500 grams of a human brain, it has 100 billion neurons, which is equivalent to 100 billion chips. And it consumes only 40 watts, just like one simple light bulb. But if we take that and try to build that machine with semiconductors, even with the latest and greatest semiconductors, it will weigh thousands of tons. It will consume 20 to 30 megawatts power. So clearly, if we have to build a robot that is as intelligent as a human, it will not be able to carry the brain on its shoulder. Solution? Put it in the cloud. Our goal is to solve that problem by building that cloud brain and to be able to connect to the robot. But nature is fair. If that computer is built, it is 1 million times faster than the human brain. So 1 million robots can share it. If we look at the next picture, nature is even more fair. The human brain would transmit all its control through a nerve system in our body.
The picture is showing is this one.
Sorry. So the human nerve system uses the same mechanism as our brain. It uses ion for the transfer of signal, and it's very slow. So the average delay in our body is 150 milliseconds. And the shortest delay is actually between our eyes and the brain. Why? Because our eyes are directly attached to our brain. It's the only organ in our entire body that is directly connected to our brain. And that's still 40 milliseconds. So I'm a communications engineer. I look at this equation. We can build a network in 100 milliseconds, transmitting more than 3,000 kilometers. And that is what allows us to control robots far away, but still achieving similar, if equal, performance as a human being. Now, we look at a different equation. So what if there are controls that requires much faster response, like motion control? Yes. So for motion control, we can localize those intelligence. But those intelligence requires very little brain. Think about a mosquito. Mosquito has a tiny little brain. Scientists computed the mosquito brain. It has about 10,000 neurons. Not much, but it's enough for the mosquito to fly and you cannot catch it. So those kind of control can stay inside the robot. But for logics, for intelligence, that requires a tremendous amount of brain, billions of times more. That we can put them in the cloud. But how many times do you make a decision per second? 10? Very rare, right? So for 100 millisecond response time, that requires intelligence. So intelligence, very, very high in computation, but low in frequency of operation. Mechanical control, motion control, very low in intelligence, but very high in frequency of control. So we balance them so we can build the perfect, balanced, and cost-effective system for robotics of the future. With that vision in mind, we built the world's first cloud robot, a blind guiding system. Guess what? All of a sudden, we can facilitate a blind person with the sensors that he needs, vision. But using natural languages, we can communicate with the blind person as he travels the road. So it replaces the blind guiding dog. But guess what? Since 1935, human beings trained the first blind guiding dog, Meta. We really haven't done much for the blind people, but now it is time to do that. Going forward, we can use the same technology to create family robots as a companion for cleaning, for conversation, caring for the elderly, caring for the young. But last but not least, my favorite part, cooking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
まあ、ビルが言ってるように、
As Bill said, in the cloud, you can put all the intelligence and critical decision making can be done in the cloud so that the local cloud can be light, inexpensive, and small in size. So not just driving, but also you can guide the visually impaired people. And also the current Pepper is very primary at this moment. But when we put the high-level brain in the cloud, then Pepper can also evolve. So Bill found the very important and also a very promising future for the Pepper too. So for the sake of Pepper's future, I hope that Bill will have a great mind for the technologies in the future. So everything is going to be connected, and every people will be connected. So if we can simulate the movables, the people and the things, then we can avoid the traffic accident, congestions, and even in a game, the millions of characters can be simulated in the clouds, and also computers can be done in the clouds. So the game developers, the characters and role of the characters are done by the developers, but the movement and emotion of the millions of the characters in the game can be done by the computer. So new OS and new platforms are being developed by Improbable, very intelligent company. So Herman, please come up.
So we are living in a world where we are starting to drown in complexity. Governments and companies have to make choices today that are increasingly impossible. What is the right economic policy? What is the right place to put an airport or to build a high-speed train network? We have the data. We're gathering so much more of it, and we'll continue to do that. We're even extracting models with machine learning. But these aren't enough, because we're dealing with a fundamental problem, the problem of emergent complexity. We can understand the motion of 1 million people in a crowd or 1 million objects within a system, but understanding what happens if we make a choice or if we change that network is still elusive. There is a solution, but it's an ambitious solution. We must recreate the world. We must build simulations at such massive scale and using so much compute power that we can accurately recreate the systems, the networks, the behaviors that define our choices. At Improbable, we have built an operating system called Spatial OS, designed to make this possible and so much more, which I will talk about. And here's an example of something we've built quietly with the British government. This is a complete simulation of a UK city. It's a model of the power grid, the telecoms network, the motion and interactions of people in basic economic activity. And it's a model of how one thing affects other things. So you can make a change in this simulation and see it reflected and ripple through the entire network. We've used this to look for vulnerabilities in the security and safety of the city. We've looked at it as a way of looking for optimizations. And this is still early work, the very beginning of what we can do. Imagine modeling all of the telco networks and all of the subscribers on Earth in a single simulation and using that to optimize the way we consider that infrastructure. But this is still not an ambitious enough goal. We're moving now into a world where automation and artificial intelligence will take away jobs from millions. We need new sources of meaning. We need new possibilities, new places to create meaningful economic activity. So let's build new worlds. We're using Spatial OS to power a completely new generation of games that go far beyond anything that has been possible before. These are worlds, not games, massive simulations incorporating millions of players simultaneously and enough space, detail, and complexity to create behaviors that have never been seen before. I'm sure many of you have interacted with games before, but what began as a toy is now turning into a meaningful subdimension of human activity and interaction. Now, I want to give you an idea of the scale and possibility that I'm talking about. This is what is possible today. Without us, without Spatial OS, games run basically on a single server. A few hundred players can interact at any one time, and the worlds themselves are limited and basic. With our technology today, we can already grow these to thousands of servers, interacting to create single worlds of very large scale. But our end ambition is to create something on the scale of a country. Imagine that. Millions of people in one world, a virtual world, with economic activity, with possibilities that for millions of people could create completely new sources of meaning and cash flow. We see this as the future. And like Masa said, it's all about partnership. So Spatial OS is an operating system enabling any company, any developer to build applications like this. And today, all you need to do is go onto our website, download an SDK, and begin development. And thousands of developers are already doing this. And we're beginning to partner with some of the biggest companies in both entertainment and other sectors today to make these worlds possible. Partnering with SoftBank was an obvious choice. There are too few people with the vision to see what is possible, not tomorrow, not day after, but decades from today. And what we're trying to do is lay the foundation for a new world. Telecommunications, connectivity, connected devices, sources of intelligence and information are all ingredients to build these new realities. And it's my aspiration to build those new realities together with Masa and with others, and to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Herman のスピーチを聞いてる。
Listening to Herman, it's so like rap music. It sounded like music. So we heard very important key points. As a national project, they are simulating a major city to prevent the terrorist attack or prevent traffic congestion. Multiple national government has written contract with them to carry out this large-scale simulation, and that is now deployed to game development. Already thousands of game developers are utilizing their spatial OS to let them do the simulation. The movements of different objects and characters, millions of characters. They may be sleeping, others are moving. Everything is now simulated. So game developers do not have to do all the scientific computation. They simply have to design characters, walls, and stories. That's all they have to do. The rest is up to Improbable. Scientific calculation as to how each character moves is done by Improbable. This is a new platform that is offered by this company. It's a great, remarkable company. We expect further growth going into the future. Now, the last presentation is going to be made by a very important partner, not just to SoftBank, but to the humankind, to everything in this world, to this globe, to the space. It is indispensable to have ARM. In our world, in this industry, ARM set the pace. ARM represents the core of the required engine. Its technological evolution supports evolution of everything. Say, be it automotive vehicles. New version of ARM actually enhance and upgrade everything in this world. The source of advancement comes from ARM already. Next year and the year after next year, what ARM is going to make, what are the new versions, what about version 9 of ARM? What ARM is going to do impact the future smartphones, future IoTs. When I was 17 years old, for the very first time I saw the photo of microprocessor that even made me cry. I was overwhelmed by that technology. And now ARM is in SoftBank Group. What's in the head of Simon? That's what I like to listen to. Simon, please.
Thank you. Masa. Thank you. That was some introduction. Thank you, Masa, and Hogazamas. It really is my pleasure to be here today. We've heard from some phenomenal companies who are doing some amazing things, who, for me, really epitomize the next wave of technology. As we stand here, we're at the cusp of a new generation of technologies which are going to fundamentally change the world. And it is fantastic for me and for ARM to be part of this family that is going to create all of this change and all of these disruptive technologies you've heard about. At ARM, I think we understand disruptive technology shifts because we've played such a major part of the last major disruptive technology shift, that of the growth of mobile. From the very first digital cell phones through smartphones, it has been ARM processing technology that has delivered more and more compute power in your pocket generation after generation. And when we think about the information revolution ahead of us, it's a fantastic thing for our business because it's going to need computing on a scale that we have never seen before. Vast amounts of computers distributed into anything and everything. ARM is part of a partnership. We license technology to semiconductor companies who build chips. And collectively, our partners have shipped over 100 billion chips containing ARM technology. 100 billion chips is a phenomenal number. Very few things are built in that kind of quantity, but we're only just starting. That first 100 billion chips took 25 years, and we think the next 100 billion will only take 4 years. And the reason for that is because of all of the technologies that you've heard about this morning. So you may think that that is why Masa acquired ARM, why he paid so much, which has been widely reported, to acquire the company. But ARM is more than that. We're more than just a company creating technology. We're a vast partnership. We're an ecosystem. And that is what SoftBank have bought into as part of ARM. We count every major technology company as our partner. And that ecosystem, that partnership, is shipping chips at a rate of 600 per second. In the time I've been speaking, thousands, tens of thousands of chips have been deployed by this ecosystem into all sorts of technologies. And as I said, I think we're only just getting going now. So at ARM, we've always had a very large ambition. We've always wanted to create this global standard from our outset nearly 27 years ago. But now as part of SoftBank, we can think even bigger. So we're thinking about this next wave of technology. And this next wave, as is obvious, is going to be built upon data. Gathering that data, transmitting that data, processing that data, all relies on computing. Computers which can be big, computers can be small. Our first ARM processors, the very first ARM1, was about the size of a shirt button. Didn't have much processing power. It sat in a very simple desktop computer at the time. Today, that has changed. We can deliver thousands of times more compute power in basically the size of a pinhead. A processor that can be so small you can't see it. And what's revolutionary about that is that it means it can be deployed into anything, and it can be deployed at very, very low cost. And that is going to create a fundamental change in the way that we gather and process data. So I think this is a catalyst for innovation and enables almost limitless potential. Now, one of the benefits of our partnership is being able to talk to lots of people about what's going on. We've always viewed that we don't have the answers to everything. We like talking to people about their views. So to think about where these technologies could be used, we decided to go and interview some futurologists, some people thinking about the future. And I have a short video here to explain to you what they said. So let's play the video, please.
I think that imagination is just your vision of things that could be.
Oh, imagination means, anything can happen if you want it.
You can think of something, and you can kind of like build it out in your mind, and then you can try it. If it works, then it can like possibly be a big thing and help like people's lives.
Everything would have a specific teleportation address, and maybe you would have like an armband where you input the teleportation address, and then it would turn you into data, send you up to the cloud, deliver you to where you want to go, and output you as you.
I think if my house
could paint itself. Every day I would tell it to paint itself a different color, matching the mood of that day.
When you think about what you want to say, then it'll just write it down for you. Like if you were thinking of an image or something, it would just be there.
Some scientist could make something that you strap to your head and projects your dream.
I think things in the future could have feelings. The cans of food that you're gonna have makes it and cooks it by itself.
If you're going somewhere and you're not supposed to go, the robot's arm will get you.
You could cloud hop.
No, I think if we look at it from different angles, all we can do is just, have that light bulb and, help you invent something, because anything is possible if you really, really, really try.
So some amazing ideas from the next generation of technologists, the next generation of consumers, the next generation of people who are going to invent the next generation of technology. I really like some of the things that came out of that. Whether the world exactly pans out in that way, who knows? Whether their predictions are exactly correct, who knows? But I am sure it's going to be really, really exciting as we put all of these technologies into their hands and they can come up with all the things that we couldn't possibly think of. Now, one thing I truly believe about this next wave of technology is that it's going to enhance human capability. I see the future of the world where technology is being used to make people's lives better and to enable people to do things that they can't currently do today. If we take surgery, the picture shown here maybe looks a little bit scary. We have a doctor using a surgical robot. This is the Da Vinci robot. And while we may hear about robots putting people out of work, here the robot is enhancing the capability of the doctor. It's an expensive piece of machinery, but it leads to better results, better outcomes, faster recovery times, fewer issues in the surgical theatre. It leads to a better result. And it's just one example of how technology and data is being used in the medical setting. Now, I haven't ever had surgery, fortunately, but if and when I do, I want to be hooked up to something like this because I'm more likely to get a better result through this use of technology. It's just one example. Computers are being used to analyze chest X-ray images, look for data that humans find it really, really hard to spot. There's an analogy that says computers are really good at things that humans are bad at. So if we put these two together, we can enhance human capability. Now, here's another example from the medical world, and this is where virtual reality is being used to enhance the training of doctors. If you go through medical training, you have to learn what it's like to be in an emergency room. The way that's done today is very, very basic. There's a bunch of people standing around with clipboards. There's a mannequin that just lays there. What this company, BioFlight VR, have done is try and apply thinking from flight simulators, technology that's used to train pilots, and take that to train doctors. So here they can set up virtual worlds, an environment that really does look like an emergency room. They can run many, many different scenarios. They can analyze the way the trainee doctor performed, provide feedback, and just provide a mass of more training. Again, if you're ever in an emergency room, I want to hope that the doctor's as trained as possible, and this technology can help achieve that. So the medical industry is going to be a huge beneficiary of the technologies that we've been talking about this morning. It's going to keep us healthier. It's going to keep us fitter. Life expectancy is improving all the time. But as you heard earlier, humans do something on a daily basis, which is incredibly dangerous, and that is driving cars. I recently saw a presentation on some data from the US, which said that in 2015, 35,000 people died on the roads of the United States. 35,000 people, that is a lot. Driving in Japan is a lot safer. There's only about 4,000 people who sadly die each year. A lot safer, but it's still 4,000 people who needn't lose their lives in traffic accidents. What's staggering from that 35,000 road deaths in the US is that only a tiny proportion came from mechanical error in the car. Some 96% was caused through human error. Distracted drivers, we heard about that earlier. Events happening that the human just can't respond to quickly enough. And the good news is that technology can solve that. Technology is already making driving much safer. Airbags, anti-lock brake systems, basic seat belts, lane avoidance systems, they are making cars safer all the time. But when we get to fully autonomous driving, then we have the potential to get those number of road deaths down to 0. We've got a long way to go, though. The technology that's in self-driving cars today is impressive, but it's got a long way before it can truly handle every scenario that a car would ever see. So much progress is being made. The technology that's in self-driving cars today, it's great. It's consuming quite a lot of energy. The systems you see today consume about 3% of the battery of a self-driving car, of an electric vehicle. And you may not think that's much. You may think, well, the battery in an electric vehicle is huge. It's about 2,000 times more powerful than that of your smartphone, so 3%, who cares? The problem is that the technology in self-driving cars that we have today is just the starting point. To truly deliver level 5 autonomy, where a car can deal with any situation that's put in front of it, situations it won't have been trained to see, situations it will just react to, that requires orders of magnitude more computing power in the car. It requires that computing power to be backed up with the learning from millions and millions of miles driven by lots of cars. It just requires a huge amount of more computing technology, and that, unless we do something, will consume way too much power to make it viable. Your car will become a supercomputer on wheels, but what we've got to do from a technology perspective is get the energy consumption down. We've got to get the cost down to make fully autonomous electric vehicles financially and technically viable. Now, again, good news. I believe we can do this. There's some science to do, but it's largely an engineering problem, so we can do that. Technology is going to make our lives safer generally. We're going to put cameras, we're going to put computers everywhere to make our lives safer. When we take public spaces, you look at in any developed country around the world, we're seeing many security cameras starting to appear because sadly there are bad people in the world who want to do bad things, and of course we want to avoid that. Problem is, with a regular security camera, we're generating too much video feed than anyone could ever possibly analyze, and that's where computers come in. At ARM and many other companies, we're working on technology to enable cameras to be intelligent at the point at which they're filming a particular scene. What we're showing here is the analysis of a scene, looking at what people are doing, trying to spot any gestures, any behavior that's unusual, and then, if necessary, go and call for some backup. So smart cameras, intelligent cameras, are going to help keep us safer. What they will need, what the cars will need, what pretty much all modern technology is going to need is continual evolution in the networks that connect devices together. And I don't just mean more speed, more bandwidth, but an actual creation of intelligence through the network itself. Traditionally, networks basically connected a device to a data center over what is a sophisticated switch, but in the future that's going to give way to intelligence through the network. Give way to what we at ARM call the intelligent flexible cloud, where processing is done on data as it is moved around. Processing is done at the most appropriate point for the data. The world won't get the benefits of all technology if every piece of data is sensed at the endpoint, all taken to the cloud, analyzed, and then a result given back. There just isn't enough time and there isn't enough power to do that for the kind of scale that we want to deploy. So the network is going to have to become a lot more intelligent. And we have to do this. There's some great data out there showing just how much data, and you've heard it today, how much data is being produced. Google are pioneers in voice recognition technology. They've done some analysis recently that said if every person with an Android phone spent 3 minutes doing voice recognition, speaking to their phone, they would have to double the number of data centers that they have. Now, clearly, that's a very expensive, very power-hungry proposition. So we have to make intelligence deployed to the place where it is best needed, deployed where the data is gathered, data getting thrown away if it's not necessary, and information making its way up the stack into the cloud where it can be coupled with information from many other sources. So we have to keep evolving the intelligence in all of these devices. The device itself, the endpoint, the network, and the cloud. All of this has to be enhanced. So I've talked about a few examples of the benefits of distributed intelligence, this concept of just getting computing out there, gathering data, and processing it along the way. Making that happen is going to require a global ecosystem. We can't do it on our own. You can't do it on our own. We're going to have to work together in partnership to deploy all of the technology and all of the intelligence to deliver on our future dreams. At Arm, we think we're best placed to play a key role in this ecosystem that's going to deliver all of this technology, because we've spent the last nearly 27 years building this global ecosystem of partners, whether it's people building chips, people writing the software to run on the chip, people building the device that the chip goes into, people building the cloud technology that the data and the information ultimately ends up at. We have this huge partnership of companies who are looking to push the bleeding edge of technology every single day. We're going to do that with a focus around efficiency, getting power down, getting costs down, so that everyone can benefit from the technology on a global basis. And we're also going to do that with a laser focus on security. None of the examples of the technology you've heard today will be delivered unless the technology can be trusted. And to do that, we have to do a lot of work to make sure data is encrypted, that systems cannot be hacked into, that intrusions are detected, and that the software is updated, the systems are updated whenever some new threat appears. That is what we're doing. That is what we are doing within our partnership. So ahead of us lies an enormous technology shift. This distributed intelligence, these tiny computers, these big computers, are going to be the foundation of the information revolution. And it's going to lead to a safer, more sustainable world of opportunity. All of those advances in computing are going to lead us to this point of singularity that Masa is focused on. And that, to many people, is a pretty scary proposition. Many people fear the impact that that's going to have on the world and on jobs. But I believe that this next wave leads to greater quantity and greater quality of life, and that's going to be a benefit for everyone. A lot gets written about this from many different places, people taking many different views. I particularly like this quote, and this is from Garry Kasparov. And this is a name who's very well known. Garry Kasparov was the world chess champion for many, many years. And he ultimately got beaten by a computer in 1997. IBM spent a lot of time, money, and effort building a computer to beat the world's best chess player at the time, and eventually they did. Now, you would think that Garry Kasparov would be a little bit bitter about that and kind of resent being put out of work by a computer, but he's actually pretty balanced on it all. And this quote that worrying about this is the wrong thing to be focused on, I think is absolutely the key point. Grave digging is not a large source of employment today. I'm not worrying about my children choosing that as a career. I'm not worrying about them becoming chimney sweeps or putting shoes on horses. I'm thinking about the jobs that are going to be created. There are many new types of job being created all the time. In Silicon Valley, if you want to hire a data scientist, good luck to you, because there aren't enough to go around. It's an example of the kind of job that's been created through these technology shifts. So I believe we are just getting started. It is a really exciting era for the technology industry, and as a result, that's going to benefit every single person on this planet. As part of the SoftBank group now within Arm, it's a really exciting era for us as well. It's almost a year ago to the day that we announced the acquisition, a day that is etched on my mind forever. And it's really fun to be part of this group and work with such phenomenal companies. So together, we're going to use this next 100 billion chips to create a world that's worthy of those dreams and aspirations of the children that you saw in the video earlier. I think this future is amazing, and I can't wait to deliver it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. Simon.
So in the head of Simon, his thoughts, his vision of the future, that is really is going to be embodied inside the chip. So his world vision, his perception of the world is very important. At what timing, what technologies are going to be fused together. And that should be truly matched with the needs of people. So his imagination will be reflected in different functions of the chip. And this is going to change the whole world that we live in. Later in the future, everybody said that the conqueror of the chip is going to conquer the world. Who control the data will control the world. So ARM is indispensable core partner to SoftBank. Not just to SoftBank, as I said. This company is indispensable to the whole humankind. Every living thing on this planet, ARM will play a very important role. And now ARM is a member of our family. As I said in the beginning, a lot of gentries in the past acted nobly, not just for their fame or profit. They are ready to take the risk. They worked for the hope of people, for the happiness of people. They dedicated their lives. Later on, these people were referred to as gentlemen. So the name gentleman comes from gentry. So we have to return back to their concept. We have new technologies in front of us. Without being afraid of risks, we are ready to make the investment into new technologies so that we can better understand the vision of technologies. Then combining the asset or investment and the cutting-edge technologies will be able to pave the way for a new era, new world. If you're working only for the fame or money, it's very empty. What we are doing is to contribute to the happiness of all the people on this planet, every living thing on this planet, and the future generation, our children, our grandchildren, the people 10,000 years from today. We want to do everything we can. Now, AI, or information revolution, is there to make everyone happier. And this is my belief. If all of us can join force together, if we can be the gentry of this new generation, if we can run the risk for the better world, certainly a world in the future will be a better place to live. Thank you.